And so this brings us to an interesting fact about melodic minor keys. If you have a look in the picture-in-picture here, I've listed every single mode of the C melodic minor key and its associated chord, and I've listed the chord that's played in practice rather than one that exists in theory. And so you'll see here that there are no avoid notes in the entire key of C melodic minor. Now this has some interesting implications. That means that you can use any lick or any riff or any run based on the C melodic minor scale over any chord in the C melodic minor sort of key. It also means that all of the chords derived from the melodic minor scale are completely interchangeable. So to explain what that means, let's go back into a major key. So let's take the key of C major. So if, for example, I'm looking at a lead sheet or some sheet music and I see the chord C major 7 written out, then I cannot play D minor 7 instead. I can't substitute D minor 7 in place of C major 7. And the reason I can't do that is because the D minor 7 chord has the note F, which is an avoid note from the point of view of the C major 7, right? It's the natural 11, and natural 11s generally aren't played over major 7 chords. But in the melodic minor key, there are no avoid notes. So that means that every single chord is completely interchangeable, and it more or less just depends on the bass. So for example, if I play the notes C, E flat, G, and B, and I play a C in the bass, that gives me a C minor major 7 chord. If I play those same notes but with a D in the bass, that gives me a D sus flat 9 chord. If I play the same notes with an E flat in the bass, I get an E flat major 7 sharp 5 chord. With an F in the bass, I get a F7 sharp 11 chord. With a G in the bass, I get a C minor major 7 on G. With an A in the bass, I get a half diminished. And with a B in the bass, I get a B7 altered chord. So because there are no avoid notes, these 4 notes can be every single chord in the key of C melodic minor. Now this has some interesting implications. Essentially what that means is that when you're playing chords from the melodic minor scale, you're playing the entire key at once rather than an individual chord. And it also means that thirds and sevenths are relatively less important. They are, of course, still a little bit important. If you're improvising, still target the third and the seventh. But if, for example, I play the F7 sharp 11 chord with the same voicing that I showed you earlier, you'll notice that there's no third in there. Now that might seem a bit strange to you, but because of the nature of the melodic minor key, and because all the chords are interchangeable, and because there are no avoid notes, that's okay. You don't have to play the third and the seventh all the time. You can drop one out. The other interesting thing to note about the chords we derived from the melodic minor scale is that there are 2 dominant chords. There's the F7 sharp 11 and the B7 alt chord. Now notice that they're a tritone apart, so that means you can tritone substitute one for the other. So if you have a song that has the F7 sharp 11 chord, you can instead tritone substitute in a B7 altered chord. So that more or less covers everything I wanted to cover with regards to melodic minor scales. Again, forgive me that this was such a theory-heavy and wordy lesson, but these kind of ideas are quite complex and take a little while to convey properly. And finally, I just wanted to leave you with one thing. So the most common chord progression in jazz is a 2-5-1. So in the key of C major, we'd have D minor 7, G7 to C major 7. Now that entire chord progression is in the key of C major, so you can improvise over that chord progression using the C major scale. However, if we take a minor 2-5-1, which is also really common in jazz, we have a D half diminished to a G altered chord to a C minor major 7. And hopefully now you know that each of those chords can be actually derived from a melodic minor scale. And so when you're improvising over a minor 2-5-1, you can use three different melodic minor scales over each of those chords. Now there is a little bit more to minor 2-5-1s, but I will leave that to another video where I will cover minor 2-5-1s in a little bit more detail and show you how they can be derived and essentially what scales you can use over them. Because as well as the melodic minor scales, you can also use a harmonic minor. But again, we'll leave that to another video. Otherwise, thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, well done for getting this far. See ya.